The stars twinkled in the night sky above Houston Space Center. Frank Miller stared at the main screen, his coffee growing cold in his hand. The radar showed something impossible, a ship, massive in size, that had appeared from nowhere and now hovered in Earth's orbit. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," said Alan Park, his communications officer. The young man's fingers trembled slightly as they moved across the console. Frank set down his coffee and straightened his uniform. At 45, he had never expected to be the first human to speak with aliens. As captain of the UES Stargazer, Earth's most advanced space vessel, he had trained for first contact scenarios, but no one truly believed it would happen in their lifetime. "Put it through," Frank said, his voice steady despite the hammering of his heart. The screen flickered, and then Frank found himself looking at a being unlike anything he had ever seen. The alien had blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer slightly. Its 4 eyes blinked in pairs, and a small mouth moved beneath them. "Greetings, people of Earth. I am Ambassador Zax Thriel of the Galactic Federation. We come in peace and friendship." The year was 2087. Humanity had colonies on Mars and mining operations on the Moon. They had just begun to explore the outer planets of their solar system. But faster-than-light travel remained theoretical. The appearance of the alien ship shocked the world. Within hours, news of first contact spread across Earth. People gathered in homes, bars, and public squares to watch as Frank Miller and his crew became the face of humanity to the stars. The Federation ship dwarfed the Stargazer. When Frank and a small team were invited aboard, they found themselves in vast halls filled with technology beyond their understanding. Aliens of a dozen different species moved about their tasks, some glancing curiously at the humans. Ambassador Zax Thriel, who belonged to a species called the Jekthal, led them to a meeting room. The wall seemed alive, shifting with colors that responded to the mood in the room. "We have watched your world for many decades," Zax Thriel explained. "It is our custom to wait until a species develops sufficient technology before we make formal contact." "Why now?" Frank asked. "We're still confined to our solar system." The ambassador's secondary eyes blinked rapidly, which Frank would later learn indicated concern. "Your world sits at an unfortunate position in space. You are on the edge of Federation territory, close to the borders of the Drachnid Empire. They are expansionist in nature. We felt it prudent to establish relations before they took notice of your world." Over the next few days, more Federation ships arrived. They brought scientists, diplomats, and observers. Earth's government scrambled to form a unified response. The United Earth Council, once a symbolic body with limited power, suddenly became the most important organization on the planet. Dr. Alice Warren led the scientific exchange program. A brilliant xenobiologist who had previously studied extreme life forms on Earth, she now had the chance to study truly alien biology. The Federation shared medical knowledge and basic technology as gestures of goodwill. They offered protection and mentorship to humanity as they joined the galactic community. But Alice noticed things that troubled her. The Federation representatives were always careful about what technology they shared. They asked many questions about Earth's resources, particularly about certain rare minerals and elements. And they seemed especially interested in establishing military outposts near Earth. 1 month after first contact, Alice was working late in the newly established Xenobiology Center in Geneva. The facility had been built with Federation help and housed laboratories where human and alien scientists worked together. As she examined cell samples from a Jekthal volunteer, she heard a soft sound behind her. Alice turned to find a small alien watching her. This one was different from the others she had met. It stood barely 4 feet tall with pale yellow skin and large dark eyes. A breathing apparatus covered the lower part of its face. "You are Dr. Warren," the alien said, its voice coming through a translator device at its throat. "I am Nixra of the Voltari. I must speak with you." Alice glanced around. They were alone in the lab. "How can I help you?" "I serve as a junior diplomatic aide to our ambassador. The Voltari have long studied other species. It is our specialty within the Federation." Nixra moved closer, speaking more quietly. We have studied humans with particular interest. Why is that? Alice asked. Because you are unusual. Your adaptability, your creativity under pressure, your species' history fascinates us. Alice felt a chill run down her spine. And what have you concluded from your studies? Nixra's large eyes blinked slowly. That the Council does not understand what they are doing. I have come to warn you. Warn me about what? The Federation's interest in your world is not entirely benevolent. Earth occupies a strategic position in their ongoing Cold War with the Drachnids. They will offer protection, yes, but at a price. They will want to establish bases here to control certain aspects of your development. Alice frowned. Why are you telling me this? Won't you get in trouble? Perhaps. But my people believe in truth, and we have seen what happens when species like yours are manipulated. Nixra's breathing seemed to grow more labored. The Federation Council sees humans as primitive, as children to be guided. They do not recognize the danger in this approach. Danger? Alice asked. My ancestors encountered humans thousands of years ago, though your people have no memory of this. We left your world largely untouched, but we observed. We learned. Nixra leaned closer. Be careful of the Council's promises. They do not understand what they risk by manipulating your kind. Before Alice could ask more questions, the door to the lab slid open. 2 Federation security officers entered, followed by a tall Jekthal diplomat. Nixra, you are not authorized to be in this section, the diplomat said sharply. The small alien straightened. I was merely satisfying my curiosity. About human research methods, Ambassador Colvir. The Jekthal's 4 eyes narrowed. Return to your quarters now. After Nixra left, the ambassador turned to Alice with what she assumed was an apologetic expression. Please excuse the intrusion, Dr. Warren. The Voltari are known for their eccentric behavior. I hope Nixra did not disturb your work. Not at all, Alice said, keeping her face neutral. We were just having a friendly chat. That night, Alice couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Nixra's warning. The next morning, she requested a meeting with Frank Miller, who had been appointed as humanity's liaison to the Federation fleet. We need to be careful, she told him, after relating her strange encounter. I think there's more going on here than simple diplomatic relations. Frank nodded slowly. I've had similar concerns. The Federation is very interested in establishing a military presence here. They claim it's for our protection, but you're not convinced. Alice finished for him. No, and now I'm even less convinced. Frank looked out the window at the Federation ships visible in the sky above. We should start preparing just in case, quietly. For what? Alice asked. Frank's expression was grim. For the possibility that our new friends aren't as friendly as they claim to be. 5 years passed since the day the Federation ships first appeared in Earth's skies. The world had changed dramatically. Humans now traveled among the stars, though always on Federation vessels. Earth had been granted a single seat on the Galactic Council, a body of representatives from hundreds of alien worlds that governed Federation space. George Summers sat alone in his office aboard the massive space station that served as the Council headquarters. At 60 years old, with gray hair and deep lines around his eyes, he had been chosen as Earth's first ambassador to the Council. Before the aliens came, he had been a respected diplomat with the United Nations. Now he represented his entire planet, and the job weighed heavily on him. The door chimed and his assistant entered. Susan Blake was a sharp-minded woman in her 30s who had quickly learned the complex protocols of interspecies diplomacy. Ambassador, the council session begins in 20 minutes, she said. George sighed and stood up. Any idea what's on the agenda today? Susan handed him a data pad. The Arcturians have proposed a new motion regarding Earth. George frowned as he read the screen. The motion proposed establishing permanent Federation military bases on Earth and all human colonies. The stated reason was protection against the Drachnid Empire, whose border skirmishes with the Federation had grown more frequent in recent years. They didn't even consult me first, George said, his voice tight with anger. It's not the first time, Susan reminded him gently. Indeed it wasn't. Despite Earth's seat on the Council, the older species often made decisions about human affairs without seeking their input. George had protested many times, but the elder races, particularly the Arcturians and the Faltan, dismissed his concerns as the complaints of an infant species that couldn't possibly understand galactic politics. The council chamber was a vast circular room. Hundreds of representatives from different worlds sat in tiered seats that surrounded a central speaking platform. Some species looked almost human. Others were so alien that George still found it hard to believe they were intelligent beings like himself. Some floated in tanks of liquid, while others required special atmospheres and sealed suits. High Counselor Drevmar of the Arcturian Empire stood on the central platform. The Arcturians resembled tall, thin humans, but with gray skin and 6 fingers on each hand. They were one of the oldest species in the Federation, and they never let anyone forget it. The motion before the Council today concerns the protection of Earth and its colonies, Drevmar announced. In light of increased Drachnid activity in neighboring sectors, we propose establishing permanent Federation defense installations on all human worlds. George pressed the button that indicated his desire to speak. After a deliberate delay, Drevmar acknowledged him. The representative from Earth may address the Council. George walked to the platform, feeling the eyes of hundreds of alien beings upon him. "Thank you, High Counselor," he began. "While Earth appreciates the Federation's concern for our safety, we must object to this proposal. The establishment of foreign military bases on our soil should be a matter for negotiation with Earth's government, not a decision made for us by the Council." A murmur ran through the chamber. Some representatives seemed surprised by his objection. Others appeared amused, as if a child had said something silly. Drevmar's expression didn't change. "Ambassador Summers, surely you understand that the Federation has a responsibility to protect all member worlds. Your species lacks the technology and experience to defend yourselves against a Drachnid incursion." "We understand the threat," George replied, "but we ask for partnership, not paternalism. Earth should have a say in how our world is defended." "Your concern is noted," Drevmar said dismissively. "But the Council must act in the best interest of the Federation as a whole." Another representative requested to speak. This was Ambassador Kernax of the Voltari, the same species as the alien who had warned Dr. Alice Warren years ago. The Voltari were not a powerful race in the Federation, but they were respected for their knowledge of other species. Kernax was small like all Voltari, with the same pale yellow skin and large dark eyes. He moved slowly to the platform, his breathing apparatus giving his voice a slight mechanical quality. "The Council would be wise to consider Ambassador Summers' objection more carefully," Kernax said. "My people have studied human history extensively. They have a remarkable capacity for adaptation and a fierce resistance to external control. Humans do not respond well to having decisions forced upon them." High Counselor Drevmar made a gesture that George had learned was the Arcturian equivalent of rolling one's eyes. "Ambassador Kernax, your people's fascination with primitive cultures is well known," Drevmar said. "But this is a matter of galactic security, not anthropological interest. It is precisely because this is a security matter that we should exercise caution," Kernax insisted. "The Council would be wise not to treat humans as pawns in their strategies." Laughter rippled through parts of the chamber. The Faltan ambassador, a being with metallic skin and 4 arms, spoke next. "What could these primitives possibly do against the combined might of 1,000 worlds?" he asked, not bothering to approach the platform. "Their most advanced ships cannot even travel between their own star systems without our help." More laughter followed. George felt his face grow hot with anger and embarrassment. He had experienced this kind of dismissal many times over the past 5 years, but it never got easier to bear. Kernax looked directly at the High Counselor. "I urge the Council to reconsider. Do not make decisions for humans without their consent. Do not anger humanity." "Your warning is noted, Ambassador Kernax," Drevmar said with obvious impatience. "Now, if there are no further objections of substance, we will proceed to a vote." George knew what would happen next. Earth had 1 vote. The motion would pass with overwhelming support, he was right. When the votes were tallied, the motion had passed with only Earth and a handful of other worlds, including the Voltari, voting against it. As George left the council chamber, Keir Nax approached him. "I am sorry, Ambassador Summers," the Voltari said quietly. "The elder races are set in their ways. They cannot imagine that a younger species might react differently than they expect." "What did you mean about not angering humanity?" George asked. Keir Nax's breathing seemed to pause for a moment. "Long ago, my ancestors encountered your kind. We saw something in humans that the Council refuses to see, a potential unlike any other species we have studied. You are young, yes, but dangerous when threatened. We're not looking for conflict," George said. "Nor are we," Keir Nax replied. "But conflict may find us all the same. When you return to Earth, tell your leaders to prepare. The Federation troops will arrive within one of your months." After Keir Nax departed, George stood alone in the corridor. He needed to send a message to Earth immediately. The Council had made their decision, but George knew that humanity would not accept it quietly. The Federation was about to learn that humans were not the simple, compliant species they believed them to be. Lisa Chen stood at the viewport of the Mars Colony Control Center, watching as 3 Federation ships descended toward the landing pads. As governor of the largest human settlement beyond Earth, she had received the news of the Council's decision with quiet anger. Now, barely 3 weeks later, the Federation forces had arrived. "Governor, they're requesting permission to dock," said her assistant. Lisa turned away from the viewport, her face set in determined lines. At 41, she had spent nearly half her life on Mars, helping to build the colony from a small research station into a thriving community of 50,000 people. "Tell them permission is denied," she said calmly. The assistant's eyes widened. "Ma'am? The Earth government has already agreed to—" "The Earth government doesn't speak for Mars," Lisa interrupted. "Not on this matter. We were promised a voice in decisions affecting our colony. The Council ignored that promise. The Federation ships didn't wait for permission. They landed anyway, as Lisa had known they would. When Federation troops marched toward the Olympus Mons defense station, her security forces blocked their path. "You will allow us to secure the defense station," the Federation commander said. He was not Jekthal or Arcturian, but a species Lisa hadn't seen before, tall and muscular with ridged foreheads and yellow eyes. "The defense station is under Mars colony jurisdiction," replied Sam Foster, head of colony security. "Governor Chen has not authorized your access." The Federation commander made a sharp gesture, and his troops raised their weapons. "We do not require her authorization. The Council has decreed that Federation forces will establish bases on all human worlds for their protection." "And if we refuse this protection?" Sam asked. "Then we will proceed anyway." What happened next would later be called the first spark of the human resistance. The Federation troops attempted to push past the human security forces. A scuffle broke out. Someone fired a weapon. Accounts later differed on which side shot first. By the time it was over, 3 humans and 2 Federation soldiers lay dead. The Federation troops took control of the defense station by force. News of the incident spread quickly throughout human space. On Earth, people watched in shock as footage of the confrontation was broadcast across the globe. In Washington, Commander Ryan Daniels of the Earth Defense Force sat in a secure underground room with the highest-ranking military and government officials. At 38, Ryan had risen quickly through the ranks due to his strategic brilliance and calm under pressure. "We need to respond to this provocation," General Wilson said, pounding his fist on the table. The president raised a hand. "We cannot start a war with the Federation. Their technology far exceeds ours." "With respect, Madam President," Ryan said, "I believe we need to initiate Protocol Homeland." The room fell silent. Protocol Homeland was a contingency plan developed after first contact, designed for a scenario where alien forces became hostile. It called for Earth's military forces to go dark, to disappear from all monitoring systems and prepare for asymmetric warfare. "That's a drastic step, Commander," the president said. "Mars colonists are dead," Ryan replied. "Federation troops fired on our people, and according to our intelligence, They plan to establish bases at every strategic location on Earth within the week. Once those bases are operational, our ability to resist will be severely limited. After a long debate, the president gave her authorization. Within hours, Earth's military forces began to vanish from Federation tracking systems. Ships went silent. Bases appeared to power down. To the Federation observers, it seemed that Earth's primitive military was simply standing down in the face of superior force. They were wrong. On Titan, Saturn's largest moon, engineer Paul Jackson made a discovery that would change the course of the coming conflict. The small research base there had been using Federation technology to study Titan's methane lakes. While examining the communication systems, Paul found something disturbing. "Look at this code," he said to his colleague Olivia Martinez. "There's a backdoor built into every piece of Federation tech they've given us." Olivia, a brilliant programmer, studied the screen. "It allows them to access and control our systems remotely. They could shut down our life support if they wanted to." Paul nodded grimly. "We need to warn Earth, and we need to find a way to communicate that the Federation can't monitor." Together with a small team of engineers and programmers, they began developing a new encrypted communication system. They worked around the clock, knowing that their small base on Titan might be one of the few places the Federation wasn't watching closely. Meanwhile, on Earth, the Federation occupation began in in earnest. Troops landed in major cities. They claimed strategic locations, military bases, power plants, communication centers. They assured the public it was for their protection, that the Drachnid threat was real and imminent. Some humans believed them. Others did not. In Houston, Dr. Alice Warren received a visitor in the middle of the night. She opened her door to find a small figure in a hooded cloak. "May I enter?" asked a familiar mechanical voice. Alice quickly ushered the Voltari inside. "Nixra, what are you doing here? I thought all Voltari would be with the Federation forces." "Not all of us agree with the Council's actions," Nixra said, removing the breathing apparatus briefly to take a special inhaler from a pouch. "I have come to help." "Help how?" Alice asked. "I have information. Federation weaknesses, patrol schedules, communication frequencies." Nixara's large, dark eyes blinked slowly. "I warned you years ago. Now the time for warnings has passed." Alice led the alien to her secure basement, where a communications setup allowed her to contact the human resistance. In the weeks since the Mars incident, a network had formed connecting those who opposed the Federation occupation. "Why are you doing this?" Alice asked as they waited for the encrypted connection. "Why betray your people?" "I am not betraying my people," Nixra replied. "I am honoring our oldest traditions. The Voltari believe in balance in the galaxy. What the Council is doing, treating humans as lesser beings to be controlled, violates that balance." The communication screen lit up, showing Ryan Daniels in an undisclosed location. "Dr. Warren," he greeted her. "Who is your guest?" "A friend," Alice said. "One with valuable information." Over the next few hours, Nixra shared details about Federation technology, tactics, and weaknesses. The alien explained how their ships' shields operated, how their weapon systems could be disrupted, and most importantly, how their central command AI functioned. "I warned them not to underestimate you," Nixra told Ryan. "My ancestors encountered humans thousands of years ago and recognized your potential. You are young, but dangerous when threatened." "The Federation is about to learn just how dangerous," Ryan replied. "Thank you for your help." After the communication ended, Alice turned to Nixra. "You should find somewhere safe to hide. When the fighting starts, it might not be easy to tell friend from foe." "There is no safe place now," Nixra said softly. "The Federation has set events in motion that cannot be stopped. I only hope that when this conflict ends, there will be room for peace between our peoples." Across Earth and its colonies, humans prepared in silence. They studied the Federation's patterns. They modified their weapons based on Nixra's information. They developed new tactics for fighting a technologically superior enemy, the Federation. remained oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface of their seemingly successful occupation. High Counselor Drevmar reported to the Council that the human situation was well in hand. Only Ambassador Kirnax of the Voltari seemed troubled. "We have made a grave error," he said during a council session. "We have cornered a predator species in their own den." Once again, the Council laughed at his warning. 8 months after the Federation occupation began, humanity was ready to strike back. The first major confrontation happened in orbit around Jupiter's moon Europa, where the Federation had established a large military base. Admiral Karen Williams sat in the command chair of the Earthship Defiance. The vessel had once been the pride of Earth's small space fleet, but now it looked different. Human engineers had modified it extensively based on knowledge gained from studying Federation technology. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said her first officer, Jack Peterson. Karen nodded. At 52, she had spent her entire adult life in Earth's Navy, then its Space Force. Now she would lead the first major human counterattack against the aliens who had taken their world by force. "Begin the operation," she ordered. The Defiance and 6 smaller ships had been hiding in the rings of Saturn, modified to avoid Federation detection. Now they emerged from hiding and used a series of short jumps, a technology reverse-engineered from captured Federation scout ships, to appear suddenly near Europa. The Federation commander in charge of the Europa base was stunned when human ships materialized less than 1,000 kilometers from his position. According to all Federation intelligence, humans were at least a century away from developing jump capability on their own. "Federation vessels. This is Admiral Karen Williams of the Earth Defense Force," Karen transmitted. "You have established military presence in our solar system without our consent. You will withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The Federation commander's reply was dismissive. "Your primitive vessels pose no threat to our fleet, human. Stand down and you will not be harmed." Karen expected this response. The Federation had 3 heavy cruisers and 12 smaller vessels at Europa, a force that should easily overwhelm the 7 human ships. But the Federation didn't know what humanity had been preparing. "All ships, execute Battle Plan Phoenix," Karen ordered. The human vessels split into pre-planned formations. Each ship launched a swarm of small unmanned craft, drones that moved with incredible speed and precision. Federation targeting systems struggled to track them. The drones didn't attack directly. Instead, they emitted specific energy patterns designed by Paul Jackson and his team on Titan. These patterns created feedback loops in the Federation shields, causing them to flicker and fail in specific sections. Simultaneously, Olivia Martinez's virus was transmitted to the Federation fleet. It exploited the philosophical paradoxes and emotion-based logic that alien AI systems couldn't process properly. Their targeting computers began to malfunction, their communication systems filled with static. The Federation ships fired wildly, missing the nimble human vessels that darted between them. The Defiance led the attack, its modified weapons striking precisely at the weak points Nixra had identified in Federation ship design. The battle lasted less than 30 minutes. When it was over, 2 Federation cruisers were disabled, 1 was destroyed, and most of their smaller vessels were either crippled or had surrendered. The human fleet had lost only 3 drones and sustained minimal damage. News of the battle spread quickly through both human and Federation channels. On Earth, people celebrated in secret. In the Federation Council, there was shock and disbelief. High Counselor Drevmar called an emergency session. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his military advisors. "How could these primitives defeat our superior forces?" The Federation's chief military strategist, a veteran of wars against the Drachnids, looked troubled. "They used our own technology against us, but modified in ways we didn't anticipate. They exploited weaknesses we didn't know existed. This was not expected behavior for a species at their development stage." Ambassador Kirnax of the Voltari spoke up. "I warned this council repeatedly. Humans do not react like other species when cornered. They innovate. They adapt. They become more dangerous when threatened. One lucky victory does not mean they can challenge the might of the Federation," Drevmar snapped. "I will dispatch the 7th Fleet to Earth immediately. We will crush this rebellion once and for all. On Earth, the human counterattack continued. Colonel Steve Rodriguez led resistance cells in coordinated strikes against Federation bases. Steve was 45, a former Special Forces commander who now directed guerrilla operations against the occupiers. His teams didn't try to match Federation firepower directly. Instead, they used hit-and-run tactics, striking quickly and then melting away into the population. They targeted communication hubs, power sources and supply lines rather than the heavily defended main bases. In New York, a Federation command center went offline when its power supply mysteriously failed. In Beijing, the aliens found their communication equipment producing nothing but human music at maximum volume. In Cairo, Federation troops discovered their food synthesizers now produced only a sticky purple substance that smelled like human waste. None of these actions were lethal, but they all sent the same message. You are not welcome here and we can reach you anywhere. The Federation responded with increased security and harsher measures against the human population. In some cities, they imposed curfews. In others, they detained suspected resistance members. These actions only increased human resentment and support for the resistance. Meanwhile, Olivia Martinez and her team continued their cyber warfare campaign from their hidden base on Titan. The viruses they created specifically targeted the Federation's Central AI Network, the system that coordinated their forces throughout human space. They rely too much on their AI, Olivia explained to her team. They've never encountered an enemy who could compromise it before. That's our advantage. Her latest creation was a virus that exploited the Federation AI's inability to process certain types of human emotional responses. When fed data about human reactions to the occupation, the AI became caught in logical loops, trying to predict human behavior. The Federation's Central Command began receiving conflicting reports and issuing contradictory orders. Ships would be directed to multiple locations simultaneously. Supply drops would be scheduled for bases that didn't exist. The carefully coordinated occupation force began to fracture from within. On the Galactic Council Station, Ambassador George Summers was kept under house arrest. The Federation claimed it was for his protection, but he knew it was to prevent him from communicating with Earth's leadership. One night, his door opened unexpectedly. Ambassador Kernak stood in the corridor. Quickly, the Voltari said. We don't have much time. What's happening? George asked as he followed the small alien through service corridors. The Council has dispatched the 7th Fleet to your solar system. They intend to make an example of Earth. Kirnax led him to a small shuttle bay. This vessel will take you to a Voltari ship waiting nearby. From there you can return to warn your people. Why are you helping us? George asked. Kirnax's breathing apparatus made a sighing sound. Because the Council still doesn't understand what they face. High Counselor Drevmar demanded more forces be sent to crush the human rebellion. I again warned against escalation. I told them, you still do not understand what you face. Humans do not fight like other species. They do not surrender when outmatched. They innovate. They sacrifice. They become more dangerous when cornered. And they didn't listen, George guessed. No, they didn't listen. Kirnax helped him into the shuttle. Go now. Warn your people. The 7th Fleet is one of our most powerful armadas. Even with your surprising new capabilities, you cannot match it in direct combat. As George's shuttle sped away from the Council Station, alarms began to sound. His escape had been discovered. But it was too late to stop him now. Back on Earth, Commander Ryan Daniels received the warning about the 7th Fleet. He gathered his top officers, including Admiral Williams, who had returned from Europa victorious. We can't fight a fleet that size directly, Karen said, studying the intelligence Kirnax had provided to George. Ryan smiled grimly. Who said anything about fighting them directly? I think it's time we showed the Federation that humans don't play by their rules. What do you have in mind? Karen asked. Something they'll never expect, Ryan replied. We're going to take the fight to them. The 7th Fleet of the Galactic Federation never reached Earth. As the massive armada of ships prepared to enter the Sol system, humanity struck first in a way no one expected. Captain Linda Hayes stood on the bridge of the Earthship Challenger. At 35, she had been chosen to lead the most daring mission in human history. Her crew was small but elite, each member selected for their skill and courage. "Jump drive ready, Captain," reported her navigator, Ben Wright. Linda took a deep breath. "Execute jump." The Challenger and 5 other human ships had been equipped with the most advanced jump technology that human engineers could create, using stolen and reverse-engineered Federation systems. Instead of meeting the 7th Fleet in battle, they would bypass it entirely. In a flash of light, the human strike force disappeared from the edge of the Sol system. When they reappeared, they were in orbit around Arcturia, the Federation capital, world. The Arcturians had never imagined that their homeworld could be vulnerable. Their defensive systems were designed to detect ships approaching through normal space or emerging from authorized jump points. The human vessels, using modified jump coordinates, appeared where no ships should be able to appear. Alarms sounded throughout the Arcturian capital. Citizens looked up in shock to see unknown vessels in their skies. The few defensive ships in orbit scrambled to respond, but they were too few and too slow. Linda opened a channel to the planet below. "This is Captain Linda Hayes of the Earth Defense Force to Arcturian High Command. We do not wish to attack your world. We are here to deliver a message to the Galactic Council." On the surface, High Counselor Drevmar was rushed to a secure bunker. Reports flooded in of human ships appearing not just above Arcturia, but in orbit around 5 other Council worlds simultaneously. None had fired a shot, but the message was clear. If humans could reach these worlds undetected, nowhere in Federation space was safe. The Council chamber, usually so orderly, was in chaos when Ambassador George Summers was escorted in by human troops. He walked calmly to the central platform and waited for the shouting to subside. "How dare you?" Drevmar finally sputtered. "This act of aggression against the Council worlds will not stand." George looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from hundreds of species. "We did not start this conflict," he said firmly. "You established military bases on our worlds without our consent. You fired on our people when they objected. You treated us as subjects rather than equals. Your primitive fleet cannot hope to stand against the full might of the Federation," Drevmar warned. "We have no desire to test that theory," George replied. "We are not here to start a war but to end one. Our ships have not fired a single shot, despite having the opportunity to cause significant damage to your undefended worlds." Ambassador Kirnax of the Voltari moved to stand beside George. "I have warned this council repeatedly about underestimating humans. Now perhaps you will listen." The chamber fell silent as George presented the terms for peace: full withdrawal of Federation forces from human territory, recognition of Earth's sovereignty and all its colonies, and reparations for damages caused during the occupation. In return, George continued, humanity will share our innovations, particularly our unique approaches to technology that allowed us to overcome Federation advantages. We believe there is much we can learn from each other, as partners, not as master and subject. The council debated for hours. Some representatives argued for immediate military action against the humans. Others, seeing the strategic position humanity now held, urged acceptance of the terms. Finally, Drevmar spoke. The council cannot be seen to bow to threats from a lesser species. Then don't see it that way, George suggested. See it as recognizing the potential of a new and valuable ally. You sought to control us because you feared what we might become. Instead, work with us to build a better future for all our peoples. In the end, the council voted narrowly to accept humanity's terms. Federation forces would withdraw from Earth and its colonies. Humans would be recognized as a sovereign species with full rights in galactic affairs. As the Federation ships left the Sol system, celebrations broke out across Earth and its colonies. People who had fought in secret now rejoiced openly. The occupation was over. In the following months, human representatives worked with Federation scientists to share their innovations. The Federation was particularly interested in how humans had modified their technology in such creative ways, and how Olivia Martinez's team had created viruses that could affect their AI systems. Your species thinks differently than any we have encountered, one Federation scientist admitted to Olivia. You see possibilities where we see only established patterns. On Titan, Paul Jackson and his team worked with Voltari engineers to develop new shield systems that incorporated both species' approaches. The Voltari's methodical precision combined with human creativity produced technology superior to what either could have created alone. 6 months after the peace agreement, a formal ceremony was held at the Galactic Council. Earth was granted full membership status with multiple seats reflecting its growing colonies. Ambassador Kirnax approached George after the ceremony. "My people have a saying," the Voltari told him. "In the universe of intelligent life, most species learn to survive. Humans learn to win." George smiled. "We prefer to think we've learned how to cooperate, but on our own terms." Admiral Karen Williams, now head of Earth's new combined fleet, stood with Commander Ryan Daniels watching Federation and human ships conduct joint exercises near Jupiter. "Did you ever think we'd get here?" Karen asked. "Working alongside them, instead of fighting them." Ryan shook his head. "I always hoped for peace, but I expected it would take much longer and cost many more lives. We were fortunate. Fortunate to have allies like the Voltari," Karen said, "and fortunate that we found ways to fight back without destroying each other." On Arcturia, High Counselor Drevmar met with the Federation's top scientists and military leaders. "How did we miscalculate so badly?" he asked them. "How did these humans defeat our superior technology and numbers?" The head scientist, who had spent months studying human innovation, replied thoughtfully, "I believe we made a fundamental error in our assessment. We judged their technology by our standards and found it primitive, but we failed to account for their adaptability, their willingness to take risks, and their unique way of seeing problems." "Will they be a threat to us in the future?" Drevmar asked. "They could be," the scientist admitted, "but they could also be our greatest allies. Humans bring a perspective that no other species in the Federation possesses. If we work with them, rather than trying to control them, we all benefit." On Earth, Dr. Alice Warren hosted a small gathering at her home. Among her guests was Nixara, now the official Voltari ambassador to Earth. "Your people have integrated into the galactic community faster than any species in our records," Nixara told her. "Most take decades to adjust. You've done it in little, more than a year." Alice smiled. "We've had good teachers, and we're quick learners." "That you are," Nixara agreed. The council would have been wise to heed the warning, "Don't anger humanity." Perhaps now they understand why. As night fell over the gathering, humans and aliens alike looked up at the stars. Once distant and unreachable, they were now highways, connecting humanity to a vast community of intelligent beings across the galaxy. The lesson had been painful, but it was learned. Humanity would not be subjugated or controlled. They would take their place among the stars as equals, bringing with them their unique spark of creativity, adaptability, and determination that had allowed them to overcome impossible odds. And throughout the galaxy, a new saying began to spread. Among the worlds of the Federation, "Make humans your friends, not your enemies, for as enemies they are unstoppable, but as friends, they are invaluable."